This was my Mike Tyson's punch-out strategy for almost 20 years. My one strategy. Quick dodge left and jab back and forth, left and right, till I took my opponent down, and I was good. I had it down so cold. At least I was the best player that I knew. Left, right, uppercut when you can, then left, right some more. It's simple, but it's just an NES game. How complex could it possibly be? One day a few years ago, I got the Tyson bug again. I wanted to start in the world circuit, but I couldn't remember the code, so I logged on and surfed my way to GameFAQs.com. To my surprise, the Punch-Out message board was in the top 10 most active. So I took the time out of my busy Punch-Out plans to see how many threads could possibly exist for a 20-year-old game. And maybe I could teach some newcomers a thing or two. After all, as far as I was concerned, I was the best. The first post to catch my attention was a new strategy to TKO Mr. Sandman faster in round 1. Faster in round 1. He goes down in round 1? My first thought, of course, was Game Genie. But it wasn't a Game Genie. I found some completely new tactics that I had never considered. I studied and played around with the technique for a few hours, and sure enough, all that time I spent perfecting my weak Sandman skills were just wasted, and it was humbling. I couldn't help but wonder what else I didn't know about my favorite game. I took notice of one particularly prolific poster named Red Tom, whose website tomspunchout.tk was advertised in his signature, and what I found there was absolutely astonishing. Tyson in round 1, Don Flamenco in 15 seconds, Soda Popinski in under a minute, gutter punches, force punches, delayed punches, nightmare punches, a midget Sandman, the clock stop glitch, and even some general information about the game like the Nintendo hotline number, Easter egg, and even a King Hippo action figure. There were high scores, fast strategies, movies, everything I never knew about the game all on one site from one dedicated player. I spent weeks there and I learned so much. But the most important thing I learned was that I sucked at Punch-Out. I studied the strategies provided by some of the regular GameFAQs posters and became a somewhat silent disciple of this newly discovered Punch-Out dream team. I set aside my stubborn pride, and in time with practice, I was so much better. I got the strategies down, learned their little Punch-Out lingo. Eventually, I even got a strategy of my own posted on Red Tom's site. But today, although outdated, tomspunchout.tk still stands, and it remains an invaluable resource to the Punch-Out community led by the best players in the world. And in case you were wondering exactly who the best players in the world are, these guys are collectively responsible for unraveling the mysteries and compiling their vast knowledge into Punch-Out's greatest strategies, tips, and cheats available. And to prove how dedicated these players are and the amount of impact this game has had, they are still figuring things out to this day. So this video series is dedicated with much gratitude to the frequent members in the Mike Tyson's Punch-Out GameFAQs message board, especially Red Tom and Brian Sulphur, for collecting all the information and packing it into easy-to-read FAQs for every Punch-Out enthusiast benefit. It's very much appreciated. This series will begin with some general tactics and later move into more specific fighter procedures to help you exploit some of the lesser-known, more powerful moves in one of the most innovative and memorable landmarks in video game history, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Your nastiest addiction isn't smoking. It isn't chocolate, it isn't fat chicks, it's the left-right combo. The reason I know you habitually perform this pattern is everyone I have ever seen play this game does. Every video I've seen from the early Punch-Out commercials to yesterday's YouTube post shows Little Mac jabbing away, left and right, chipping slowly at his opponent's health, and it's time to move on. The transition from Punch-Out amateur to pro begins with the proper punch. That is, responding to an opponent's punch with a hand opposite of the one he threw. A proper punch will always damage the enemy at least as much as an improper punch, but will often take off more energy. Generally speaking, the punches that follow your initial response won't matter, but it is good practice not to alternate your punches ever, or at least know when it won't matter if you do. Regardless, a good starting point is to respond to every one of every opponent's punches with the opposite hand. In other words, the one on the same side. Never improper, and never alternate. The following Tyson fights are a demonstration of the different possible responses and are evidence of the importance of the proper punch. These are 16 of Tyson's introductory grave digger punches. In this first clip we see the ever so popular left-right combo. In response to each and every punch I am dodging left and throwing a left-right, which works fine if Tyson throws a right. But if you look closely at the pattern against his left, no damage is dealt with Mac's first punch. So if Tyson throws left 50% of the time, I'm only taking the maximum amount of health away half the time. To emphasize the importance of the proper punch, in this clip you see me doing the exact opposite of the correct technique, throwing improper punches. When he throws a right, I'm throwing a right, and when he throws a left, I'm throwing a left. Now look at Tyson's health meter. Only the second punch is dealing damage, and the second punch doesn't do that much in the first place. So with the same amount of punches, I only remove a couple of bars of health. Now this time I react with proper punches. When he throws lefts, I throw rights and vice versa. As you can see, the health meter is reducing with each of Little Mac's attacks, and as a result it decreases much more rapidly than the left-right 1-2 pattern. Now it doesn't matter which of Mac's gloves you use for the second punch, but it's just as easy to throw a right-right as it is a right-left, and it's good practice. Notice in this clip, if you aren't counting, Tyson goes down on the 16th punch, whereas in the other two demonstrations he didn't even come close. Later I'll get into a much faster Tyson strategy, but for now just tuck away the proper punch information as the most important tip in this entire video series. Using these every time against every character is sure to cut your overall game time tremendously. Second only to my practice left-right combo, the worst habit I ever picked up was insisting on at least one jab before using an uppercut. It wasn't until I began practicing these advanced strategies I found that most of the time, I was just wasting energy. Using your star without a jab when appropriate has many advantages. It saves time, it can produce more injury, it can even prevent an opponent's dodge if you're quick enough. As a matter of fact, the only time you need a preceding jab is if you know that punch will give you the slight damage boost you need to take your opponent down. Sometimes an unstunned uppercut is effective if the fighter is just standing there preparing for a move, but often they'll fit perfectly immediately after an enemy's hook or uppercut. Now keep in mind I'm not trying to steer you completely away from ever jabbing a fighter before unleashing your only special move. Just that it's important to know the difference between needing to stun your opponent first and just throwing the star. Stunned uppercuts are necessary for some strategies, but if you watch the later fighter retaliations, more often than not, you'll just want to throw that uppercut when you can to save time and open up your repertoire for more stars. Now it's time to get more detailed. I'm going to run through some fast strategies for each fighter to help put you on track to becoming a better player. These techniques are simple and effective, but as a result they don't show the fastest possible times. I'm counting on you to either check out the available FAQs or even experiment on your own to move beyond what these videos will show you.